Yo.
Hey, what's up?
Oh, you know.
Yeah, man. Sorry.
That's fine.
Oh. Yeah, thank you for delaying a day. And
How's your wife? Good?
yeah, it's been weird. I was literally on a plane to Dallas. I don't know how much I told you.
No.
On a plane to Dallas when I found out. I knew my son had a cold, and I didn't really think anything of it. I thought it was all allergies. And all of a sudden, I'm like going to this big hot tub show, and I get a message that he has COVID. I'm like, what do I do? I'm already out here. I'm fine. I never got it, thank God.
Yeah.
But I was definitely morally conflicted. Like, do I tell people? Do I hide in my hotel room? What do I do? I had my biggest dealer came in from England on Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. So I just didn't go home for like a week. I felt like a shitty person, but
This is probably the right thing to do.
yeah. But we're here now, and they're both doing better. And he never really got that bad. She just got sore. That's kind of and sore and tired. That's the main thing that I've heard most people complain about that didn't die from it. Yeah, where it goes to your lungs or whatever. Kept it out of there. So yeah.
Good.
All right.
Helps to be vaccinated, people.
Yes. And my son was going to get it on the 16th because that's what they're doing at the school. And
yeah.
He just happened to get it before. And now he can wait a little bit and get vaccinated later on. So that's somewhat good. Blame my sister. She got married. She insists my son brought it to the wedding. And I'm like, I'm telling you right now, he didn't have it. It doesn't matter. Anyway, we got a lot to talk about this show.
So, yes.
You ready to go?
Yep.
All right. Welcome to the Everyone's a Critic movie review podcast. I'm your co-host, Bob Zerl. With me, as always, is professional film critic Sean Patrick. Visit us at ihatecritics.net, Everyone's a Critic podcast.com. We're on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. Our handle is CriticsPod. You can listen to us on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, Alexa, all your podcatchers. Rate and review the show, and you will be given a copy of, if you're the next person to do it, if you don't get a million copies of them, we'll be given a 4K Blu-ray, right? Is it 4K or just?
Yeah, it's 4K Blu-ray. Yeah.
I Spit on Your Grave, which again, one of our better Patreon episodes. So with that being said, patreon.com/criticspod, the best way to support the podcast. You can listen to that I Spit on Your Grave episode. I Spit on Your Grave, not grade. This is in the classroom. As well as our most recently, we did an episode on Nirvana and then one on Metallica. We're looking at some Led Zeppelin and Beatles ones in the near future, hopefully.
Yeah, I would say the Beatles is probably next, considering that documentary is going to be out soon.
Yeah, I'm ready for that one. The album we picked, Abbey Road, I could, without hearing it again, I could do it. That's how much I love that album.
So I finished the first episode of this documentary today for my job, and I'm conflicted. At a certain point, it's just them noodling. Like, it's just them playing around. And that's really entertaining for a while, but it's like, this is the same thing again.
Did you ever watch the Rick Rubin one?
Yeah, that was incredible.
Right.
Because, that seemed to have more focus to it than this does. This is really cobbled together.
Well, that one they kept capturing just the magicalness of the Beatles music. And they just kept capturing it over and over again. Just the looks on their face, like even Paul McCartney's like, I didn't even know that was there. Kind of just really cool stuff. But yeah, look forward to that in upcoming episodes or upcoming months. And then if you want to get some of our merch, tpublic.com, search for Critics Pod, or go to ihatecritics.net and click on the TeePublic link on the upper right-hand corner. All right. We are on YouTube. If you want to watch us live on Mondays, Tuesdays, or Sundays, whenever we get it together, we do post a link on our social media pages when we are live. We don't have a whole lot of notice because we're busy people. Anyway, let's go ahead and get started with the massive new release, Ghostbusters Afterlife. I have not seen it, so that wasn't fair. But
I liked Force Awakens, and I like Ghostbusters Afterlife. So there, Ghostbusters Afterlife picks up the story of the Ghostbusters after Egon had left New York. He went to Oklahoma because he believed that there was something there in this small town that only existed for about 100 years. That may be connected to Gozer and the original, thing that they battled in New York. He thinks that the next step might be in this small town in Oklahoma. Of course, nobody believes him and nobody goes with him, and so he goes alone. And we see him in the opening scenes trying to track down one of the key aspects of that, using this farm that he's built that's actually a giant Ghostbusters containment unit, which is pretty cool. And that scene plays out in a way that's very exciting and moving, and I really liked it. It really gets the movie off to a very fast start. And then we're introduced to our main characters. Carrie Coon plays Egon's daughter, who was very much distant from him. She didn't know him growing up, and she's not a big fan because obviously he left when she was very young. She's got two kids of her own, played by Finn Wolfhard and McKenna Grace, who are typical kids. One's a teenager. She's 12 years old, and she's brilliant. She's a lot like her grandfather, gets similar hair and glasses and so on, and the same curious spirit. And they end up losing their apartment just as they find out that he's died and left them this farm. So they decide to move there. And the young girl sets about searching around this farm and finds Egon's lab and the PKE meter and the trap, and accidentally lets a ghost loose, and then finds all the equipment and goes out with her brother. They go ghost hunting along with their friend Podcast, which is a young character that she's becomes friends with, who records everything that he does as a podcast, which has a couple of really good payoffs later in the movie that I really liked, but a lot of people don't like, and I don't care because I found it funny. Because I like this character, and I like all of these characters. I think these characters are great. I love these new characters. Paul Rudd plays a seismologist who became fascinated by this small town, so he accepted a small town teaching job just so he could be there to investigate the earthquake activity in a place where there are no fault lines or no volcanoes. Why is this place shaking all the time? Obviously, that's going to be related to the main plot. So it's a clever way to get that character to where he is and why he's there. He's also the love interest for Carrie Coon. So a lot of pieces fit together there. There's certainly conveniences, but nevertheless, this movie is just so much fun. And when the Ghostbusters show up, eventually, the original ones show up, it's as exciting as you would hope it would be. It's as memorable as you hope it would be, but it doesn't take away from anything that these are new characters are doing. And Jason Reitman just nails every aspect of combining the nostalgia with something new and exciting. Finn Wolfhard and McKenna Grace are especially just really great casting choices. They really love doing this. And of course, Paul Rudd's amazing. And Carrie Coon is one of the best actresses on the planet. She's kind of lowering herself to do this, if you ask me.
Yeah.
She should be doing Oscar stuff, honestly. Not to take anything away again from this, because I do love this. I thought this was great. I really had a great time watching it, and I recommend it to everybody.
Yeah, I haven't seen it yet, as you could probably tell from our intro on YouTube at least. My son and wife came down with COVID last week. So we had a big week planned. My son's favorite band was in town, and Ghostbusters came out, and he couldn't do either one of them. So he was really bummed. He's like, Paul Rudd? I can't go see Paul Rudd. I'm like, we'll go see it this weekend.
He is the sexiest man alive, so that melding of Paul and Rudd makes sense.
The funny part is, because he's been in grocery stores and seen the magazine, but he didn't know. He just saw, there's Paul Rudd on the magazine. Because he's a big Marvel guy, so we know him from Ant-Man, and he knows it's Rudd. He's just being a smart ass. But we'll go see it this weekend for sure. And I know, like, I love Ghostbusters so much that I don't really care that it's fan service. And I don't know if it's fair. Everybody, like my brother, can't stand it for a number of reasons. He doesn't like fan service stuff. He hates that someone is named podcast. I'm a podcaster. That drives me nuts. And he's never been a big fan of nepotism, no matter how well earned or not.
Yeah, because Jason Reitman is really getting the benefit of nepotism.
Everything Jason Reitman has done. He can't stand those movies. He hates Juno. He hates young adult. And so it's all, I mean, I don't know. Just some people are stubborn. And that's the way it is. I don't want to be a hypocrite because my biggest complaint with Force Awakens is it was nothing new, just fan service. It basically retold the first Star Wars is with these new characters. And from what I understand, that's what this movie does. Maybe it doesn't. I don't know. And I guess you could, in a way, I guess Creed did. Although I thought Creed was really pretty original on its own. Regardless.
I would say this is more along the lines of Creed in terms of creating new characters that stand apart from the originals. And I think a lot of this too, I'm the first person to call out Hollywood for reheating our leftovers. You know, I use that phrase a lot on this show. And I didn't feel like this felt like really good leftovers, like from yesterday, as opposed to 3 days ago. I mean, this is really good stuff.
This is more like, instead of reheating, it's like the McRib came back. I don't know. That makes no sense. I want to see it so bad. I can't wait to see it.
I just don't. The vitriol that this is getting is so ludicrous to me. I read somebody, a very prominent, I guess, critic on Twitter, talking about this, and he just comes off as like somebody who doesn't want to share his toys. And it's not your toy anymore. It's everybody's toy. Everybody gets to play with it now. Sorry. Just whining about it. It didn't even come off like criticism. It came off like whining. And it really disappointed me to see somebody who is rather prominent in what we do whining. And I think when you want to make a better comparison to how this is, it reminded me more not of somebody having to give away the toy that they want. It was more like Toy Story 3, where it's like, I've got these really great toys and I'm going to give them to the next generation to play with them because I don't play with toys anymore. That's what this is like.
That's awesome to hear that. And for the most part, I mean, I've only heard good things about it, other than I knew my brother would hate it, so I'm not even counting that. And he went and saw it opening weekend. So, yeah. I mean, I think there's part of him that loves it too. He just doesn't want to admit it. And I guess my question is, another big complaint I had with Force Awakens, it reminded me of like an episode of Full House. Like when Han Solo shows up, there's a pause and the crowd claps and stuff. Is it like that when Peter Venkman and Winston and Ray pop on screen, or not really?
I don't think so. Actually, it's really emotional, actually, at a certain point. The way they play it, and I'm not going to give anything away, but the way they play it, it actually becomes very emotional when it happens.
That's awesome. I can't wait. And I'm hoping, like, my son's showing no symptoms right now. We're going to test him again on Thursday. I can't even go to my parents' house for Thanksgiving, so it's just us at home. Again, no big deal. No pity party. Just, kids they like to do things.
I mean, he was going to have a vegan Thanksgiving anyway, so I mean,
what's the point? Yeah, well, instead of quite frankly, it makes it easier on me. I don't got to go to the in-laws. I don't got to carry a whole other meal to my parents' house. But we'll get him tested, and hopefully, I'd imagine we'll get to see it this weekend because he should be in the clear at that point. But I'm glad to know you liked it, and I believe your headline was nostalgia done properly or right.
Yeah, it's nostalgia done right.
Yeah, so I can't. This looks so good. And plus, I'm an apologist. I like part 2 even though I know it's not good. It's still, I like the character so much. Yeah. I don't care.
I liked the girl Ghostbusters.
I like the girl Ghostbusters too. I don't even go and get that, but the other one. it's in its own little world, I guess. But
Yeah.
it's just fun for me, and I can't wait to go and see it. Anything else before we move on?
No, that's good.
All right, King Richard.
King Richard stars Will Smith in the story of Richard Williams, the incredibly driven and dedicated father of Venus and Serena, who even before they were born had seen something on television of a female tennis player receiving a purse of about $40,000 for winning at a tennis match, and he thought to himself, "Well, I mean, I've already got athletic children. I have two more. I bet they could probably play tennis, or at least I could teach them, and they'll just be natural athletes, and then they can win and they can make a lot of money doing it." And he was right. He said they were. He even this is actually documented. He said to Serena that Venus is going to be the number one tennis player in the world, but you're going to be the greatest tennis player of all time, which again also went on to happen.
Right.
Which is great, except the thing about this movie that's troubling is that Venus and Serena are so flat. Like, we don't get a real sense of them. And that's led to some people saying that this movie is about, taking their accomplishments away and making their accomplishments about their father and what he did. And I don't necessarily agree with that. I don't think that's what the movie intends to do. I think it's just the fact that Venus and Serena aren't particularly well written. The performances don't particularly stand apart. And that really is what leads people to saying that that's kind of leading to that unfair conclusion that this is a movie that's about making their accomplishments about Richard. And I like I said, I don't think that's what it's doing. I think what's happening here is that we've got Will Smith is this outsized star delivering a very big star performance very well, pulling focus and thus making it more about Richard just through his casting and just through the fact that it's about Richard. And so that's automatically going to flatten out Venus and Serena as characters and diminish their accomplishments in comparison to what he helped them to accomplish, which is something of a fair criticism of the movie, but not necessarily entirely fair. Because I don't think this movie is disrespectful to Venus and Serena. They personally don't feel that this was disrespectful to them in any way. And I think we have to defer to them
Right.
when it comes to that. If they say they don't feel disrespected, then that's what we have to go with. There's a lot of really good things about this, like Will Smith's performance is full bodied. It's very detailed. He's very committed. John Bernthal is very good as kind of an unintentional comic foil for him as who becomes the sister's coach. And he's just constantly just shocked and surprised at everything that Richard does. He can't seem to keep up with it, which kind of gets funny at times. So yeah, there's a lot of good things about this. I don't think it's a great movie because, again, the characterizations of Venus and Serena are just a little too flat. And and especially since the final scenes are at a tennis match, one of Venus's first finals as a professional, to not have it feel like it's her at the center of that takes away from the fact that she's the star of the final act of the movie. And we're always constantly cutting back to where Richard is. He's kind of hiding away, trying not to distract her. So he's hiding in a hallway, watching it on TV. And we're constantly cutting back to him. And so that takes the ending doesn't feel right because the main character is not at the center of the scene. And that's always going to make your movie feel strange.
Is this a hard-hitting movie, or is it pretty safe and happy?
Very safe. Yeah, this doesn't touch upon any of the real edge of Richard. Some of it's there, like the way he talks to reporters. But that's played off as mostly not him being rude, but him being protective of his daughters, which I get that's what his intent was, to protect his daughters, but it didn't change the fact that each time he gave an interview, he came off like a complete asshole. He had no tact whatsoever. And that may be the thing, again, that he's protecting his daughters. I get that, but he had zero tact. And this movie doesn't portray that very well.
So how involved? Go ahead.
He also gets off pretty easily on, leaving his multiple wives and having many children before Venus and Serena. They don't really go into that very deeply. He is kind of venerated in that way, but again, I don't think some of that's there, enough of it's there that I don't think that criticism entirely holds up, but it is playing it safe.
Now, how involved were Serena and Venus? Did they just sign off on it, or was it their idea? Or
I believe they signed off on it. I believe that they may have an executive producer credit. I don't think they didn't approve the script. They kind of approved the final cut, I think, is the impression that I got.
So, I mean, basically, is this
is
kind of
authorized?
Right. It was more of like a love letter to their dad, or a thank you for, whatever, as opposed to the hard hitting stuff that maybe Tiger Woods' dad would have, or something else.
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought about watching it. It's really long.
You do start to feel that length.
Yeah. All right. Let's move on to Abel Ferrara. Zeros and ones.
Abel Ferrara, has been as kind of a star of this podcast when we talked about him, because he's so interesting. Everything he does is so interesting. And when I heard the pitch is that, Abel Ferrara is going to tackle, what it's been like for the last year and a half, a combination of a focus on both terrorism and on COVID-19. And it's like that, like Abel Ferrara and Ethan Hawke are going to tackle that.
Right.
I'm in, right? Then you're watching the movie and you cannot tell what is happening from minute one to minute last. You can hardly see anything. He's using these handheld cameras. Potentially they could be cell phones. I'm not sure, but the lighting is so bad that you can't tell who's doing what at any time. There's a terror attack at the center of this that is at the Vatican, and they're literally going to blow up the Vatican. And it really plays almost as if somebody took a picture of the Vatican and then an explosion effect from like a Microsoft effects set and put that over the Vatican, and that's our terrorist attack. It's pretty bad. There's so many confusing scenes in this movie. Like the movie is set during COVID times. People are seen wearing masks. At one point, Hawke's playing two characters. He's playing twin brothers. One's a revolutionary who's been captured and is being held hostage. The other is a soldier who is kind of a Blackwater type, handles like waterboarding and stuff. So the soldier character goes to visit this woman that he has on the side in Italy who has a baby. He walks in, she hands him a mask. He puts the mask on. She puts a mask on. They kiss with the masks on. They have a brief conversation. And then she goes to talk to the baby, takes her mask off. He follows her, takes his mask off, and they both go in to talk to be around the baby. And I'm like, why did this happen? You're kind of missing the point of the masks.
Wow.
So I couldn't tell, honestly, like, is Abel Ferrara making a statement that he hates masking and is like a COVID denier? I don't know, honestly, where he comes down on that.
Well, and that's even when it's good movies, when you watch them, they're one wrong turn away from being a disaster.
That's what's so great about him, right? Is that
right. So I'll always appreciate what he does, even when I don't like it.
Yeah.
He's always going to be authentically himself, but
he does not care at all. He doesn't care at all what the audience thinks. That's, and sometimes that means greatness, and sometimes that means this.
Right.
This is trash. This is one of the worst movies of the year. But hey, we'll always have Ms. 45 and Bad Lieutenant. So, I mean, there's the trade-off.
And I'll take it. Just don't take those movies away from me. All right. Jagged, the HBO music box series.
Did you say music botch?
Initially on accident, but it works out. That's probably what it is. Did you watch this at all or no?
I did. So Jagged is takes us back to the mid 90s, to the rise of Alanis Morissette, and right at the bat, it does nail the whole, the nostalgia. Right, I mean that is all there. it took me back because and I can say this is not clout chasing. This is true. I've got somewhere I have a ticket stub that shows that I was at the Adler Theater in Davenport on November 25th for the Jagged Little Pill tour. I was there. I saw it. It was amazing, and she's amazing. And what this documentary does really well is capture the excitement of that moment where Alanis goes from writing these songs with Glenn Ballard at his house to within months, she's traveling the world as the biggest star on the planet. And capturing that moment, that excitement, this movie does that incredibly well and takes you inside that very well. The story about K-Rock getting a copy of Jagged Little Pill and immediately deciding to put that on the air, like immediately putting You Ought to Know on the air, is a great story, incredibly well told. The issue is that this is not a serious documentary. This movie doesn't have any sort of seriousness. And so when they start talking about serious stuff, the documentary seems to pull away from that. It seems to not know how to handle that. It wants for a moment to be salacious, or it wants to be hard hitting, but then it doesn't have the actual weight to pull that off. That comes in when we're especially talking about, Alanis having been sexually assaulted when she was 15. And she talks about that a little bit. She says something about talking to a therapist about saying that the sex was consensual, but then catching herself and reminding herself, I was 15, I couldn't possibly consent to anything at that point. And the movie does seem to throw shade initially at one of her early producers without actually making an accusation against him. But it's uncomfortable, and it's not very well played out, how the director lays that out. The other part, of course, the other issue that I have with it, they kind of gloss over her eating disorder that was forced upon her also by this guy. That aspect kind of gets left out. They also take plenty of time to show her naked, like or near nude, in multiple photo shoots and a bath scene. And again, these are old stuff from when she was a kid, right? Not now. This is when she was a teenager, 19 years old. And yet they talk also about her being sexualized. So like, make up your mind which one you're doing here, guys. But then they get into the whole, like, you can't talk about You Ought to Know and not mention Dave Coulier. Has that urban legend not been debunked or removed from the culture, or just overdone at the very least? We got to go there.
It got sloppy. You're right. They captured the creation of Jagged Little Pill and that initial run and the rise to fame. That whole part was fantastic. Everything else was clunky. I had the same problem with the Woodstock documentary, where they were complaining about girls showing their boobs, yet they couldn't stop showing girls with their tops off on that stupid documentary. They want to do something here with the guys in the movie, and they're definitely cutting around them to make them, to make it look like there was some sort of conflict or something that might have been there, but there wasn't enough in the interviews to really have any weight. But the way they cut it just was clunky, and it made you more annoyed at the filmmakers and Bill Simmons than anything else.
You could definitely tell the points where they were trying to perhaps create drama that wasn't there. Like there's a point where Taylor Hawkins, who's now the drummer for Foo Fighters, who was her drummer on the Jagged Little Pill tour, she essentially helped to discover him. He's talking about how at the end of the tour he decided to leave to go join Foo Fighters, and how emotional that was, and how he felt that she was certainly hurt by that and betrayed by that. They cut back to Alanis, and she kind of doesn't really talk about it. And I'm thinking either they didn't ask her directly about it, or they didn't, or they just didn't ask her at all, and about him specifically, but they wanted to create some conflict there that they didn't have. So they just kind of left it unanswered. And basically her answer to it is, it was hard ending that tour with this group of people that I was with for a very long time.
Right. Well, and even the fact that all the guys in the band were getting with girls right and left, they're talking about it, and she just kind of was like, it was weird and awkward, and then they didn't have enough there to really it could have been interesting, I suppose, but they didn't have enough there to make it interesting.
Mm-hmm. They weren't going to call out Taylor Hawkins or the other two guys in the band or anything. It wasn't going to be a call out. She doesn't seem to have any bitterness toward them.
No, they were calling themselves out more than anything and admitting it. But again, it was just poor filmmaking, and she just more felt like she was in an awkward scenario when that was happening. But it was so there just wasn't enough there. She has since come out and said she is not behind this movie. It wasn't the movie she agreed to make. And I mean, this is 0 for 2 for me. I thought the Woodstock one, again, filmmakers with an agenda. And I think the same thing here. They're trying to do something. They're trying to be bigger than it was. And instead, they could have celebrated this amazing album. What the second or third biggest selling album of the 90s, depending on where you look.
Biggest selling album of all time by a female artist, 33 million copies, which is incredible. I love this record, and so I like listening to her talk about writing it and recording it. I was kind of curious about her relationship with Glenn Ballard, because I thought that I was under the impression that there might have been some acrimony at the end of that relationship where he was taking people were giving him more credit for this, like he created her, and they avoid that entirely. Like, I don't think she says a word about Glenn other than, I went to his house and we recorded. It's like, there should be a more of a story there, shouldn't there? People were giving him credit for creating her.
Well, and she briefly mentions how some women shot her down. And I mean, I know for a fact Courtney Love tore her apart, hated her because she didn't write her own music. And again, it's the funny thing is Glenn Ballard left this and went to work with Aerosmith after that. And so he'd done. There's nothing wrong with collaborating. That's what musicians do.
Well, and he says in the thing, like, he was constantly surprised by her writing this stuff. So actually, she did write this.
And those words are hers.
Yeah, and
I'm sure he wrote a lot of the music, but I'm sure she did too. And it was a collaboration. There's nothing. It's silly. That's stupid. I don't know. I'm not a big. I don't like when other musicians tear on each other. And I know. I don't know. This album still holds up to this day.
Absolutely,
as one of the great records of all time. I just went and saw the what was it, 30th anniversary tour or 25th.
Yeah,
that was amazing. And what I love too is, after this, she was in a better place, and her albums changed. They were authentic to who she was in that moment. Whenever she did something, every single record she's done since then, and I don't love all of them, but the ones I've listened to, I like some. I think, City of Angels is a shit movie, but that soundtrack's pretty phenomenal between her song and the Goo Goo Dolls song and a couple others.
Yeah.
And this is my wife's favorite artist, so I don't know. I think she's great, and I wish I would have done her better justice.
I love the follow-up record, Supposed Farmer Infatuation Junkies. It's a fantastic record, and I get to brag that at the show I was at in November of '95, she performed an early acoustic version of Thank You and Unsent. So I got to see those perhaps before many did live.
Wow. And if you saw her at the Adler, was that before she blew up?
No, this was after. This was definitely after.
So she had done the stadium thing.
Yeah,
and it was still okay. Cool.
Yeah, this was near the end of the tour, I would say.
Okay,
like right before she went to Europe, but after she broke in LA back in April and May and June, and then by November, she'd already. I'm sure an artist her size probably would have canceled the Adler if she could, because by the time she got there, she was one of the biggest stars in the world.
And did we have an arena at that point?
I don't remember. I think we had the iWireless Center at that point.
Would have been pretty close.
Yeah, the Mark of the Quad Cities. What it was that then?
Yeah, I don't know. Again, just a bummer. You could take 20 minutes of this, maybe 15, whatever that chunk of time was. I loved that. It was just a really cool story, and then they just shit the bed from then on out, and it's not fair to her. You even got Kevin Smith in there, and they do nothing with it. I mean, I love her in Dogma. I think.
And she talked about loving Dogma and loved how much she loved the script, and yeah.
Well, she was supposed to play Linda Fiorentino's part at one point, but couldn't make it work, and then asked if they still had a role for her when she got back. But no, big fan, and kind of bummed that this kind of is just filmmakers going into business for themselves. All right, what do we got left? Oh yeah, how do you forget this one? Tick Tick Boom.
Tick Tick Boom stars Andrew Garfield as Broadway legend Jonathan Larson, who became a legend with just one major show. He was the writer of Rent. He created Rent, and this is the story of him creating what would go on to be Rent, the ideas that would come to become Rent eventually. This takes us back to well before anybody knew who Jonathan Larson was, when he was writing his first show that he intended to be a big Broadway show, and putting it on display for people to look at and perhaps fund and put on Broadway. And this movie is incredible. It's so emotional and so incredibly well staged. The music is outstanding. Lin-Manuel Miranda does this amazing job of taking the original stuff of what Jonathan Larson did in which is, again, Tick Tick Boom was its own stage performance, a staged musical of sorts, a rock and roll musical, I think is what he called it. He takes that music and finds the essence of it and puts a little bit of himself, but not too much. Like, it doesn't turn into Hamilton at any point, which right. I was kind of worried. I was worried going in, like, if this gets to be too much of his style, but he sticks very close to Jonathan Larson's style with just enough of that Lin-Manuel Miranda panache to make it work. And especially there's this amazing scene set at the diner where Jonathan Larson works that turns into this massive musical that just happens to have every Broadway star on the planet in it. And that moment is just so awesome. So awesome. I've become kind of a Broadway nerd in just the last couple of months, just because I found this YouTube channel called Wait in the Wings, and it's got these amazing stories about Broadway flops, which I'm always a big fan of when something goes bust. And he just does a great job of covering Broadway history. And so that's got me into this thing. And so seeing all this stuff that I now know about Broadway and seeing it come to life in this way, like this is about creation. This is about art. This is about music. This is about inspiration. Where does it come from? How does somebody come to write something amazing? That's all in here. And Andrew Garfield has all of this incredible life in him. He's just so dynamic, and really makes you understand why Jonathan Larson was going to create something big. And I do wonder now, I mean, I hate Rent. Like, I think Rent sucks, but I think if he were alive today, he might have made some adjustments, or he might have at least changed people's perception of it in some ways. Like, it was of this time, and here's why I wrote it, and here's what it means, as opposed to people having to interpret him afterwards, which is certainly the case with the movie, having made without him at all, because of course he passed away just as Rent was starting on Broadway. So this is far truer to who I hope Jonathan Larson was than I think the Rent movie adaptation was.
Yeah, it made me appreciate Rent a little more, but I still don't like it. I appreciate where it came from based on this movie, because I'm always a big fan of, we were talking about Jagged and how she created the album and what it became. I like those stories, and this does a great job of telling that story for Jonathan Larson. And I was really intrigued the entire time. I'm not a big musical guy. I have been a fairly decent sized fan of Lin-Manuel Miranda. Sorry for getting the syllables wrong, or the accents of it wrong. But at least I like Hamilton, and I don't mind his style. His style can get repetitive, but you're right. He does just enough here where it brings it to modern day, but doesn't take over the songs. As far as I know, I don't know the songs from Adam. So, but I mean, they're good, and Andrew Garfield disappears into this role. I've never seen him this good
Yeah.
ever, and he's a pretty good actor. So I'm really impressed with that. I mean, I'm not the demographic for this, and I thought it was really quite fantastic. I think the songs are great. Just and even watching, seeing his tapes on the wall, being like all metal bands, was also awesome for me. Uh, and I get it. I get why someone like him would be into musicals. I get why the guys from South Park. I mean, it's this kind of make sense to me a little bit, because I can, watching him write the songs, at least the way they thought he wrote the songs, just really fascinating. And I've always liked the creation process. Whenever a movie can capture that, or a play can capture that, there's nothing better for me than that. And when you can capture that, that's the best. And this movie really is fantastic, and I think everybody should watch it.
I also love that contextually, like so much of the music, especially this big important song that he's struggling to write. He's got major writer's block about. He can seemingly write a song about anything, as they demonstrate throughout the movie. But he has this one big song that he needs to write, and he can't seem to write it, and he's struggling with it. And in the context of that, knowing how much like he stresses over this and sweats over every word of it, and then only to find out that he's done this for absolutely nothing. It's coming to absolutely nothing. This musical he's working on ends up going nowhere. It's so moving in that context. It becomes just so cathartic when he then turns it into the rock and roll musical, which becomes Tick, Tick, Boom. That leads, of course, to Rent. All of that effort does come to something, but just in that context, it becomes so beautiful. The way the effort, the life that he brings to that is superb.
Yeah, I mean, and even him finally coming up with that song the way he does is pretty funny. Even in a very emotional moment that turns into comedy, good comedy. Yeah. And then how he just, I love how he has to do this. He is struggling. He is starving. He has no money, but he has to do this. There's nothing that can stand in his way. It will kill him if he doesn't do it. It'll kill him if he does do it, apparently. But, and I didn't mean to make a joke, but right. I mean, that's what happened.
Yeah.
But there is those artists that just, this is what they're going to do, and it doesn't matter. And, you have friends along the way trying to get them to step up into the real world, and then they change, later on, there's reason not to. And, I don't know. It was just very, those people exist. I think that's really cool. I know a lot of people are annoyed by people like that, but I'm not. I think it's really, I really enjoy people who are willing to struggle in life for what they believe in. And that's really, really a neat thing that I really liked about this movie. And the fact that he stuck with it, and even though he never got to enjoy it, he still reached where he wanted to. And even how he got to the mainstream success, he didn't get there in a cheap fashion. He found something personal to get there. And yeah, I'm not a big Rent guy, but I'm also not the demographic for it. So yeah, whatever.
It's very much from his very much from his experiences. He knew many people in his community, New York City, who died from AIDS, and of course that all comes to play when it comes to Rent. Eventually, that's a big part of that show, and to see where he's seeing that and taking all that in and putting that to use, making art of this tragedy is very beautiful. It's what really is what we hope to see. It's also deeply political. Even though it doesn't seem like it, it's very political in its way, because so many people at that time are trying to, they show Reagan and all those guys just kind of trying their best to ignore AIDS, and Rent is like, fuck you, you're going to pay attention to this.
Well, another thing I really like about it, this movie is not about his death.
Yeah,
it's about his life and the creation of his art. And they mention his death, but that's it. It's not about that. And I really like that about it as well, because it's, you always want to celebrate, someone like him. And this movie definitely is a celebration of him.
And there's
all the goods and bad.
there's no cliches either about like I don't have
No,
enough time or I know I'm going to die
no,
young. None of that exists in this movie.
nope, not at all. And that's, I don't know, it really is one of the best of the year. And Andrew Garfield might be my favorite of the year. He was that good. I mean, it's
Yeah.
definitely up there.
I mean, other than maybe Dev Patel in The Green Knight, which is those two performances in terms of lead actors, I are untouchable at
Yeah,
this point.
and I don't know how you split between the two of them because they both just disappear into their roles. And yeah, that's a great point. This definitely has a recency bias, but you're absolutely right. Anything else on Tick Tick Boom? It is on Netflix. You should go watch it.
It's in my top 5 for the year. It's battling it out with The Green Knight and Giants Being Lonely, I Blame Society, and The Killing of Two Lovers as among those. That's my group of the best movies of the year so far. With the second tier being maybe The Last Duel, which is did you see the news about that this week? Just before we move on. Ridley Scott blames millennials for the failure of The Last Duel. He says that kids on those stupid kids on their phone don't pay attention to movies anymore. Thanks for making it hard to like your movie, Ridley.
Yeah, I'm gonna pretend I didn't hear that. No, I mean, it's shaping up to be a pretty good year. I mean, you also forgot the animal movies and Pig and Lamb that were really great this year too.
Yeah,
so
that's true.
There's definitely a strong 10, if not more.
Something to be said also for Nicolas Cage and an Oscar nomination.
Yeah, I although much as I love him, these two I wouldn't be upset.
Well, they're 5 nominees
at all. Let them just tie. But no, it was a great movie. Go see it. Our undisputed classic is Chicago.
It feels appropriate because we just talked about a Broadway movie, and here we are talking about Chicago now, and this of course is just a much maligned movie to win Best Picture, but doesn't deserve that because it's incredible. This is a movie of just so much life and so much energy and just so much love of performance. The story goes that Renee Zellweger's character murders her boyfriend, then tries to get her husband Amos to take the fall for it. This comes after Catherine Zeta-Jones's character Velma has murdered her husband and her sister, who were cheating together on her. She's in jail, so Roxy, Renee's character, heads to jail, and they're both competing for headlines because they've got Richard Gere as their lawyer, who's this lawyer who just manipulates the system in many different ways, especially in manipulating the media. And I tell you what, this is by far the best Richard Gere has ever been in a movie. He's been great in a lot of things. But I would say this is the Richard Gere. This is my Richard Gere. This is so much more energy and charisma that he's ever had on screen. And when he's doing the press conference rag, that is such an amazing scene. The choreography is spectacular. The wit is on point. His delivery is perfect. Then he does the little tap dance bit at the end, and that is incredible. The way he's capable of building tension with his voice and with using his manner to help aid the song to really communicate the personality behind the song is spectacular. He is so great in this, but everybody's great in this. I don't even think Rob Marshall is that great a director, but I think this material is so good that he can't miss. And I think you see after this when he does 9 and Memoirs of a Geisha, where he's far more try hard in those, and here it's just so effortless because all of the charisma is already in the show, and you've already assembled the perfect group of actors, including these 3, but also Queen Latifah, Taye Diggs, John
C. Reilly.
John C. Reilly. Mr. Cellophane is so good. He's so amazing in that performance. Just everything. I loved this movie when it came out. I loved this movie when it won Best Picture. I thought it deserved to win Best Picture, and I'm even more on board now after watching it again. Those horns, those spectacular songs, just the insanely strong wit of this story. It's just so very, very good.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not a Broadway snob yet either, but I mean, but I was a big fan of Book of Mormon, and I've seen that a couple of times. And then Hamilton is fantastic, and then watching Tick Tick Boom. Not to mention some other movies. La La Land a couple of years ago was a musical
right.
that I liked, and I probably should go back and watch Les Mis again. I appreciate it, but it's not my thing. And
right.
it's still, this still isn't. I prefer a lot of those movies to this, but everything you're saying is 100% true. It's not that it's a bad movie. I'm more into different things. But you could argue, and you're probably right. Not only is this Richard Gere's best role, but probably Catherine Zeta-Jones and Renee Zellweger's. They've had bigger movies, or at least Renee Zellweger has, but they definitely all own the screen in this movie. And it's watchable, and I definitely had a greater appreciation for this one more than I did the first time I saw it. And it's definitely watchable, and it's cute and fun, and it's just I don't know. I don't know why I can't get into it as much as other people can, but it's also it's a niche. It'd be like if Hereditary won an Oscar, and people who aren't into horror movies aren't going to like that. So I'm all for it deserves everything it got. There's absolutely nothing wrong with this movie. It's damn near perfection. And you're probably right. It's not the director as much as everything involved with this is just perfect that you could mess up if you wanted to.
I'm retroactively angry at whoever beat Richard Gere for Best Supporting Actor, which it turns out it was Chris Cooper in Adaptation, which is an amazing performance. I think this is better. I love Adaptation. I think this is a better performance. I do. So I'm gonna take that one away from Chris Cooper, but I just adore this movie. I really didn't realize how much I enjoyed this until I get to watch it again. So excited to get to watch it again, and part of it, of course, is probably my newfound relationship with Broadway as well. But nevertheless, I just have such a new appreciation for him and this movie because I don't think Richard Gere is very good overall. I think he's made a lot of terrible movies. I think he was the hero of the 80s wine mom. I think that's where he got his thing going. And I think later on he did start to earn it a little bit. He did this, and I think Dr. T and the Women is incredibly underrated, a Robert Altman movie that everyone hates but me. And then
I love that movie.
Yeah, isn't that great? It's a great movie, right?
But that's also written to who he is. So that's not as much a stretch. But no, I get what you're saying.
And Hoax is another. Hoax is an awesome movie. What a fantastic film. And he's great in that.
Yeah, but this one is so not him. And that's and the fact that he nails it. And again, I don't know Richard Gere, but I've seen him in enough movies where he's done the same thing for decades up until this, really.
Coasting on his looks.
Right. And I couldn't imagine Harrison Ford, another guy who's kind of like him jumping in this movie and being this good. And he really does just shock you. That really does. I don't know. It's just neat.
I had this thought while I was watching Tick Tick Boom, and I had this thought again while watching Chicago, because people continuously undermine my confidence or try to undermine my confidence in Les Mis by trashing Russell Crowe's performance and saying that he can't sing. And I don't know if Russell Crowe can sing, but he nailed the emotion of the singing. He got the story, he got the meaning of it. The death scene that Russell Crowe has in Les Mis, you believe that, not because the singing is beautiful, but because the deep, heartfelt meaning, like his world has been shattered by what he's just seen. He has no other choice but to kill himself. You can't touch that for me. That nailing that emotion is great. And Andrew Garfield, I don't know if Andrew Garfield can sing either. I don't know if he's any good as a singer, but he captures the emotion of each song and the purpose and the point and the wit of each song. And that's all Richard Gere does here. I don't think Richard Gere is a very good singer. I really don't. But he gets the point. He has the humor. He has the wit. He has the bravado and the confidence to sell you these songs the way he's selling it to the media, the way he's selling it to Renee and Catherine. That he's a salesman, he's a showman, and that confidence that he has in delivering this, even as he's not a great singer, it doesn't matter because he's got every other aspect of it nailed. He's just good enough to carry the tune.
Oh, absolutely. And I agree with you on Russell Crowe. That's one thing I did take away from that movie. And I think even before I met you, I remember Russell Crowe. I mean, I'd met you before we started the podcast, because I think the movie came out right before we started doing it, maybe the year before. And I remember Russell Crowe on Twitter, saying exactly what you said. It wasn't about, what notes I could hit. It was about, capturing the emotion of the song. So in the moment in the movie. So I agreed 100% with what you're saying there. And again, that tap dancing scene is, I guess the whole idea of it's funny.
Yeah.
Because he's tapping around. Questions. It's cute, it's clever, and it's good for what that is. And again, if Heredity had won Best Picture, I would be in heaven, but a lot of people would hate it because it's not their thing. And
right.
So I kind of look at it like that, but it really does. It is as good as he can. It's a great musical. It really is. All right. I think that is all of our movies we're going to talk about. We will briefly talk about what came out in 91. A lot of kid movies. Addams Family came out. Fabula Goes West. Beauty and the Beast, which is actually a pretty big movie. But we did a big episode on that way back when the live action came out. And then For the Boys, Bette Midler. I've never seen that.
Yeah, I've never seen that. I've heard about it. People who love Bette Midler love it. So good for them. Yeah. Enjoy.
I liked Addams Family as a kid. Hated Fabula Goes West because I loved An American Tail, and Fabula Goes West didn't capture anything from the original movie at all. And Beauty and the Beast is Disney, and they don't really mess that up.
I don't know the full story, but I have just kind of glanced at a couple of stories that said that Fabula Goes West was this just massive boondoggle from beginning to end, where there's like allegations that people were using it to hide money, and so there's a far better story behind Fabula Goes West as opposed to what's on the screen.
I would believe that 100%.
Because it was compromised on every level.
Like, I loved that movie as a kid. It was one that was sad, as I got older, it's more cheesy. But when I was little, it was a bit, it was one of the first movies that really make you possibly tear up or whatever. And then they go into this weird Western bullshit.
Right. And I mean, the first movie that say what you will about the song Somewhere Out There, but a little boy singing about how somewhere his mom is in the same universe as him and she's nowhere near. I'm tearing up just thinking about the idea.
Uh-huh. And maybe, yeah. And I go back to, because I was probably the age of what 5 would have been when it came out. So I've always liked it. And I know I was kind of like, it's cheesy. I'm not going to pretend it's not, but I've always was a fan of that. But yeah, I remember when Fabula Goes West came out, just be like, what the fuck is this bullshit? Not even swear back then. All right. Oh, wrong button. Let's see here. Before we let you go, do you want to play some Flick Chart, or do you got to get going?
Absolutely. Let's go.
All right. And this is a pretty easy one. It, Child's Play 3.
Yeah, It.
The Man from the Diners Club, or Saw.
Just a brief aside, I've actually just reviewed a movie that has Brad Dourif's daughter, Brad Dourif from Child's Play. His daughter is in it, Fiona, and she is apparently I didn't see it in this movie that I saw, but she's like playing him in the the Child's Play TV show. In flashback,
oh, really?
She's playing him, and she's amazing. The thing about it that I noticed in this movie I watched, which is called The Shuru Project, is that she has that same bizarre, unpredictable quality that Brad Dourif has that makes him so exciting. And so I don't necessarily think this is a very good movie, but she's pretty great.
Well, that's what's funny about the Child's Play movies in general. I mean, you got an Oscar winner in Bad Dwarf. I think Jennifer Tilly was nominated for an Oscar.
That's right.
And then she goes on to, basically her career turns into a Child's Play in poker. And all the good stuff she was doing, didn't get to go with her. But, she probably made a lot more money doing it that way. And it's just so silly. I don't know. The dolls still sell to this day, and I don't know what the...
Don't understand. I don't understand.
Have you seen Man from the Diners Club?
I've not heard that one.
American Gangster Saw. Yeah. American Gangster was just not quite. It was just a little less.
Yeah.
Naked Gun 2.5, The Smell of Fear, or Anchorman, The Legend of Ron Burgundy.
Anchorman.
Absolutely. National Treasure, Book of Secrets, Marie Antoinette.
Marie Antoinette. People need to watch that movie again and actually watch it with the right context.
Oh, it's really good.
It's really good, but there are a lot of people who think that movie sucks.
What context are they watching it in?
Right? The context of that it's overly opulent and celebratory of a monster and whatnot. It's like, no, that's the point.
Unforgiven, Rocky IV.
I think that was part of that was just a backlash against Sofia Coppola at the time. Like, she became so big so quickly, and then the nepotism thing, people start saying that stupid nonsense, despite the fact that she'd already made 2 incredible movies by that point. And then just people trying to take her down, I think, is mostly the reaction to Marie Antoinette.
It is funny. My brother, that's one of the, he hates nepotism. He actually doesn't mind her. So he likes Lost in Translation and all that. And it's not Bill Murray because he didn't like Ghostbusters. So, but no, Sofia Coppola has made some fantastic movies.
I've loved every one of them. Every one of them. Even the Steven Dorff one.
Unforgiven, Rocky IV.
Unforgiven.
Yeah. Tinker Tailor Soldier Spy, American Wedding.
It's so weird that I have to think about this.
You're never going to watch it again. That's the problem.
That's fair. Never going to watch Tinker Tailor Soldier Spy again. I know it's a better movie.
And on top of it, it's not like it's American Pie 1. It's like the third one.
If I was flipping channels, though, on a Saturday afternoon, if I had cable and I was flipping channels, and the choice came down to like Tinker Tailor Soldier Spy is on one channel and American Weddings on the other one, I'm probably going to watch American Wedding.
I'm with you. I mean, I just watched, because I'm trying to stay away from my family because I'm a horrible husband, and they have COVID and I don't. I watched, and I'm going to say it, I saw like a total asshole. I watched Hall Pass, wasn't where I was going with that, but it sounds really bad. But it's similar to American Wedding. I'm just flipping through and it was on. I'm like, oh, I like this movie, okay. And I'm trying to fall asleep with it on, and I couldn't stop laughing.
That movie has just one of the very few, I don't like shit jokes, but the shit joke in Hall Pass is pretty good. That one's pretty good.
It was in the sand trap. Well, even they're trying to do pickup lines, and he just sniffs a napkin and goes, "Does this smell like chloroform?"
It's an icebreaker.
Just so wrong and stupid, and I don't know.
Yeah, I still laugh when I think about that movie.
Are we going to American Wedding?
Yeah, why not? Shut up, Internet.
I mean, in fairness, if Tinker Tailor Soldier Spy were better, we'd want to watch it more.
Right, exactly.
Modern Times, It's a Wonderful Life.
Modern Times.
Never seen it, so I'll go with you. The Hot Chick, Get Shorty.
Get Shorty.
Flubber Bloodsport.
Bloodsport.
Flubber looks like he got kicked by Jean-Claude Van Damme. Army of Darkness, Horrible Bosses.
Army of Darkness.
Yeah, although I just think I like Jason Sudeikis more or less.
That's got to be it, because I mean, when you look at Horrible Bosses and they go and cast a woman in the role of the Lech, come on, really? Harvey Weinstein's Hollywood in full effect.
Yeah. Well, then you throw in Kevin Spacey, just not quite what it used to be.
Yeah.
Roxanne Under Siege.
You see, under Steve Martin, so Roxanne is Steve Martin, and he's very funny, but Under Siege has Tommy Lee Jones getting a knife stuck in his head. So I mean, where do you come down on this?
Yeah, and
Roxanne.
Yeah, Christy Swanson used to sway me, but now she's a kind of a whack job. I don't even want to watch that scene anymore. Beverly Hills Cop 2 or Sister Act?
Beverly Hills Cop 2.
Yeah. Empire of the Sun, Final Destination. This is funny because I hate Final Destination. If I have to choose one, I'm going to watch Final Destination.
I never want to see him Empire of the Sun again.
I'd rather just watch people die in creative ways.
Yeah.
As lame as I think it is.
Empire of the Sun is homework, man. It's homework. Don't give me homework.
It's the opposite of homework. Mad Max Fury Road and Mr. Deeds.
I hate Mad Max, remember? It's Mad Max.
Hulk 03 and Flux.
They both suck.
Both disappointments.
And Flux.
Probably. Stand By Me, Iron Man.
Iron Man.
Yep. Jeff Who Lives at Home, El Mariachi.
That's tough. I mean, they're two incredibly different movies, but each is actually very good in its way. Jeff Who Lives at Home is really very funny and kind of dark and weird and unique, and nobody remembers it. And I love Jason Segel, and Ed Helms is his brother. I mean, come on, that's a winning duo. And El Mariachi is like some incredible bloody violence, incredibly well put together. Before Robert Rodriguez got rich and lost his edge. I'm not sure where to come down on this.
I agree. I love both movies. Because I have a soft spot for the low budget, first time out kind of thing, I'm gonna go El Mariachi, but that's just out of a personal bias to that type of movie. Yeah. That's just more my excuse. I don't know which one I'd watch right now. I'd probably watch either one of them if they were on.
Yeah.
The Weatherman, March of the Penguins.
One's not very good. The other's not one I ever want to see again.
The one that's not very good. I don't know if it's not very good until I watch it again.
March of the Penguins.
Yeah, fine. I should have seen the Weatherman. I want to just vote for it out of principle. Rango or Dr. Seuss, How the Grinch Stole Christmas, the Jim Carrey version.
Rango all the way. One of the best animated movies ever made.
Absolutely. That's not fair. Adaptation or Swingers?
I mean, that's not fair to make me pick between those two movies. It's adaptation.
It's not that hard, but I love Swingers.
Swingers is great.
Adaptation is one of the best ever. The Brothers Grimm, School for Scoundrels.
Garbage movies. Both are garbage.
Let's just say we haven't seen them. Red Dragon, Nosferatu.
Nosferatu.
Yeah. Golden Knight, Supergirl. This a TV movie or just go to theaters?
No, it's real. Supergirl's real. You haven't seen Supergirl?
Well, no, I've seen it. I just always saw it on TV though, so I wasn't sure if it was in the movie theaters or not.
Supergirl's hilarious for all the wrong reasons. It's terrible because it's one of the worst movies ever made, but I'll watch that before I watch Goldeneye any day.
Why? I mean, I've seen it a handful of times as a kid. Never seen Goldeneye because I don't like James Bond. Constantine Tootsie.
Oh, fuck you, Dustin Hoffman. It's Constantine.
Never seen Tootsie. Don't really feel like it anymore.
I hate Tootsie. I hate it.
30 Days of Night, Grease.
30 Days of Night.
Yeah, you think with your newfound love of, I guess, Grease is Broadway, isn't it? So you think you'd like it if you went back and watched it?
Maybe, I don't know.
Fight Club, Rain Man.
Fight Club. Fuck you, Dustin Hoffman.
Yeah, that used to be closer for me, and now it's just getting, still trying to hold on love for Rain Man, but it just keeps going further and further away. The Adjustment Bureau, Tangled.
Tangled.
Yeah.
The Adjustment Bureau had a really great idea.
No, I think Corey told me from UC Ivanry, he said, you guys should talk about on your podcast. I guess another podcast did this, so kind of stealing my idea. But I'm sure we have no carrot crossover for the second Monday football podcast. Anyway, if you were on the run from Jason Bourne, do you think you could make it 7 days without getting caught?
No.
If he was in another country or something, if he started off in another country.
I still think he'd kill me.
And I told him, like, it's not going to be a very interesting conversation because Sean's going to say no right away. and then I run the risk of being that, douchebag guy who's like, yeah, I could do it, or I just end it with him. So, yeah, other than the fact that doesn't he have amnesia or something like that? So
something like that.
Shot as if
still wouldn't prevent him from catching you and snapping your neck, though.
All right, but he's got no flipping for me. That's the only thing I can hang my hat on.
Brian Cox didn't think you could find him, and he did. So,
yeah,
and he's the head of the CIA. So,
fair point. Monty Python's The Meaning of Life. Bridget Jones' Diary.
Bridget Jones' Diary.
Yeah,
it might be closer. But Holy Grail, it would be closer, but
no, I mean, I just said Chicago is her best role, but she's done a lot of good movies. I kind of forgot about Farewell, My Lovely, The Other Guys.
I've not seen Farewell, My Lovely. You know what else is great? Renee's great at is Cold Mountain.
Yeah. Jerry Maguire.
Yeah. Judy, the Judy Garland movie. She was fantastic.
Yeah. Thank You for Smoking, The Other Guys.
I make too much money to ever smoke crack. I'm going to pick that one just because I love the poster.
I actually love that movie.
It's so good, right?
Yeah. Wow, this is a good one to go out on. Midnight Cowboy or Mr. Baseball?
Mr. Baseball. Fuck you, Dustin Hoffman.
Oh, man. All right, that's our show.
I'm kidding about Dustin Hoffman a little bit. Watch he dies tomorrow. How great will I look?
Wow, yeah. But I mean, he's getting harder to watch. I mean, it's not quite.
If you look back now, he's always been pretty hard to watch.
Right, but I'm just starting to notice it, and now it's, I don't know, weird. Not even like a bummer. It's just kind of like, yeah. All right. Anything else before we go?
No, that's it.
All right. Well, I'll talk to you later.
Sounds good.
Have a good night.